Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good evening and welcome to What Can I Do as an English Major? This is our fall 2024 edition. So a little bit about this particular workshop. It's probably been about 8 years since we started doing this, or we bring back um, alumni to talk to our current majors and kind of give them an idea of what they can do as an English major. And today we have the opportunity to talk to three of our former majors. And so I'll just introduce them just a little bit, and then they can also explain to everyone here a little bit more about what they do and also what year they graduated. If they want to share that, we can do that as well. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, happy Founders Day. Yes. All right. So one of our panelists is Serena Hicks. She is the reference and outreach librarian at Nova Southeastern University at the Alvin Sherman Library in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She offers reference services, conducts information literacy instruction, and extends outreach to both NSU and the broader community. She is dedicated to connecting individuals with library resources while fostering an inclusive environment for all. Welcome, Ms. Hicks. Another panelist is Sharika Garner. She works as a digital learning and engagement librarian at the University of Central Florida. She is a Tucker Hall enthusiast, probably when the paintings were on the wall, with graduate degrees in education and information science. She is a proud auntie to many and enjoys cooking, reading, and watching bad movies. And then our third panelist is Esther Spencer. And I know that she works for McGraw-Hill Publishing. I didn't get a bio in time to kind of tell completely, but she can also introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her trajectory. So again, welcome everybody. Oh, is it not sharing anymore? Okay. Hold on, let me share it one more time. So this is our agenda for today. We will have a brief panel discussion where I'll ask questions. Unfortunately, our president of the English Literary Guild could not be here, so I'm gonna fill in for her and do some question and answer. And then we'll open it up for students to also ask questions as well. And then once we get to the mini workshop, our participants can leave or y'all can stick around if you would like to. All right, so our first question, and again, I thank y'all for being here. I put out a call on the alumni page on Facebook, and thankfully, Sharika and Serena volunteered on there. So our first question for you is, what motivated you to pursue your current major after completing your degree? And anybody can decide to go first.
Okay, I can go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharika. I graduated in 2007. Um, so just yesterday. I was a teacher initially. I knew going into college that I always wanted to work with children and kind of work on education, but also, just being a good citizen and all of those skills that, it takes a village to teach a child. But I graduated in 2007 and education was very, very different. It was not anything like I'm sure those of you who are in college now have experienced. You had a lot more freedom to kind of teach, academically, but also, like I said, to kind of pull in those citizenship skills that I wanted to teach. And it became very, very clear that I was not going to last if I had to kind of be formulaic in the teaching that I was doing. So I decided to go back to graduate school. I kind of did like a round of internships and shadowing in different types of libraries, and settled on academic libraries because it is the best of both worlds. You get to educate, you also get to teach. And so that's just kind of how I ended up. That's a short version of how I ended up where I am today.
Okay, and we'll come back to you to ask you some more about those internships. Yeah.
I
Next.
can go. I graduated completely undecided about what I was going to do next. I went into college not knowing what I went to do, so I just picked English as a major because I always liked English. A lot of my classmates were either going to law school or trying to teach. And I knew teaching was not for me. Shout out to all the teachers. You're amazing. But as far as like my career values, I didn't necessarily want a job where I had to take my work home with me. Teaching could be very stressful. And I just knew that was not the life for me. Shout out to all the teachers. So I was actually working in the writing center after I graduated. So hi, Dr. Dawn. Um, and I was literally Googling what can I do with an English degree? Like what grad programs are there? And I came across librarianship and researched it a lot. And so I liked that it had aspects of teaching, like I still get to educate, I still get to interact with students. But I like come visit them and then I go home. And so yeah, I wanted a career where I was customer service, like still helping people, still in education and higher ed. And so it just seemed to click right away. So the job I'm at now was my first job out of grad school, and I've been there almost 10 years now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I don't want to say my path's a little strange. Some of the things I've done have been completely unnecessary. I'll put it like that. So my undergrad is in English. I didn't go to FAMU for undergrad. I went to FAMU for grad school. So my undergrad degree is in English, and I also ended up with that degree because I loved reading. But I initially went to school and was a pre-med major. But sophomore year, my hair fell out, and then that was that. It did not work for me. So graduated with a bachelor's in English, and I graduated, I think it was 2003, and the economy was doing something. So I wasn't able to find work, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with the English degree. And then was thinking, okay, maybe I should pivot. So I ended up going to grad school at FAMU and majored in history. I did a master's program there. And while in the program, I started working at the Writing Resource Center under Dr. Yan. So I'm another tutor here. That was my experience in terms of using English. So I worked at the Writing Center. I was a tutor and did administrative work. And then being in an academic environment, I thought, okay, let me get my PhD. So I went to school, got my PhD in English. I graduated last year, actually. But in that process, I also realized that I don't know if teaching is what I want to do. I don't know if I want to go through all of this. And while I was working on my PhD, I worked as an editor for a professor in the business school. And a lot of my experience as a tutor helped to transition in terms of editing. So one thing in terms of the writing center, excuse me, you hear us always say, you don't edit, you don't proofread, we're helping you, learn how to write, helping you to revise and go through the writing process for your work. But in that environment, I would, meet grad students, especially working on thesis or dissertation, who actually needed editorial work. So I was doing that on the side, did more of that while I was going through the PhD program. And even before I graduated, I started working full time as an editor. So my job title is copy editor / publishing specialist for McGraw-Hill. So that's where I am now.
All right, thank y'all for sharing that. So what I noticed is like a common thread for everyone is that we often don't know what we want to do, right? And we kind of take pivots and make some changes along the way, right? So I'm wondering if y'all could expand on any pivotal moments that kind of like led you in the direction that you are in now. I know I can't remember, someone said they did internships with that, Ms. Garner. Yep. So maybe it was what about those internships kind of like led you to your path? Just anything that was kind of pivotal that made you make that decision.
Yeah, so I was doing internships while I was working full time. So I was either doing them at night or on weekends or during the summer because I was teaching. And so just experiencing like the day to day experience of like what the career is that you think you want to go to is super helpful. Like I really was set on being a public librarian, and I knew that I wanted to work in the greatest library system in the world. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so fun. But I am very friendly, and that is not the best personality for a public library because it is very public and there are a lot of opportunities for people to kind of take advantage of you. And so I just very quickly, like, people were like, you're just too nice to work here. And so and I mean it was a real experience. Like I had some very interesting experiences with patrons just being super nice. And so like that for me was a pivotal moment. I was like, oh, I can't come to work every day and not be myself. And so I just realized that that wasn't a personality fit. And like, while I did still want to work in libraries, like that was not going to be the type of library for me, especially because it was downtown, it was in the city. Like it was just not the right space for me and my strengths. So internships were great for helping me figure out exactly what it was that I wanted to do.
Good. Yeah, that hands-on experience and also just knowing for sure what works for you and what doesn't, right? Okay. Anybody else had like a pivotal experience that they wanted to expound upon?
I definitely agree with what she said. I think trying, because I was so lost, I didn't know what I was wanting to do. I was just trying everything. So I actually did do an internship at a local magazine in my hometown. My dad met the editor, and he's, how dads are, telling everybody my daughter's an English major. So he ended up getting me this internship I didn't even ask for. But it was a good experience because at one point I considered like writing or publishing. I think a good thing is just to do, I did a lot of research. So trying things out and also doing the research. I tried out the magazine thing. It was fun, but I was like, I don't think this is for me. I looked into publishing and I was like, eh. So really researching, and if you can, talking to people in those fields as well, I think helped steered me in the direction I wanted to go.
Well, I guess I would say pivotal moments occurred through the PhD program and realizing that in terms of being able to manage my life and personal things, I wanted to have a job that would have quite a bit of flexibility. So I would say in general, just going through the PhD process, going through that rigor helped me to kind of pinpoint exactly what it is I need in terms of a career and work environment.
Okay. So yeah, I'm mentoring a former major now, and she is completely in the same sort of position. She's working for the state, but she doesn't want to be working for the state. And so I keep encouraging her, like it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do, right? To kind of make some um connections, but also try something new, right? Do some research about it, right? So going back to your time at FAMU, how would you say that your degree in English and history helped you in your career path? Is there something specific that you can name other
Yeah.
than you love books?
No, I don't think I would be able to do my job if I didn't have the background that I have, especially in terms of working at the Writing Center. I think having that hands-on day-to-day working with students, communicating, that really, 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 I think pushed me. And so in terms of the specifics of my job is two things. So the main thing I do is the way our content department is structured, we have the overall content team, and then we have the writers and editors who develop the articles for Achieve 3000, and I'm on the publishing team. So I'm part of the last line of defense is what I like to say. So I'm catching proofing errors as well as things that might be, what's the word, offensive. So that's me. And thank God for me because I have caught some things. just, dealing in the climate that we're in. So my job is to make sure we write articles as well as items. So we create materials that help with literacy acceleration. So we work with Lexile. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that in the college environment. It's mostly for elementary, but students basically have different Lexiles that they read at, and to help the teacher deal with that type of environment, we create articles for a classroom, and we'll have 10 different versions of that same article. So a teacher who's teaching 4th grade class might have a student who's reading below Lexile, another one reading above Lexile. They all are getting the same content, but it's meeting them where they are, basically. So that's the type of work that we create. So we're a subset of McGraw-Hill. And it was a smaller company that was bought by McGraw-Hill a few years ago. Anyway, so my job is to read the articles, answer the items to make sure it makes sense, to make sure, okay, at this level, none of the content has dropped out that we're asking for in the items. The other thing I do is I fact check. So proofing comes at the end of the process, but I assist with fact check, which occurs earlier, and it actually wasn't part of my job description when I first started. But we were finding a lot of errors that made things difficult once something was posted, because now we have to go back and change it for 10 different levels. So they added fact checking, excuse me, to the process. So where we go through and make sure everything that is being stated is correct. And if there isn't, or there's some discrepancy, then I make a comment, it goes back to the editor, and there's some back and forth until it's revised. But yes, in terms of the work that I do, it's very much in line with the experience that I have. So when you ask about the history, it's very much the fact checking and being able to, understand what I'm reading, what's being said, what's the intent, what's factual, that sort of thing. So yeah, so on a daily basis, I use the experience I gained from my academic background.
Anybody else wanted to share? And Esther is already done. Kind of what I was going to ask you a little bit later is kind of give a snapshot of your day. But if you want to specifically talk about any skills you draw on that you would directly link to having an English major or English degree.
Yeah, so a large part of my job is research and kind of contributing to the discourse about librarianship and trends in libraries and things like that. And so I do a lot of outreach and presentations, but there's also an expectation that I produce some sort of report or written paper or article or something of that sort. And so it's really good that I have a background in English, because I'm able to translate like what I've done in the real world, I'll say, into writing, but then also like clear, concise, being brief, like all of the things that are important when you're kind of publishing articles and the things that people are expected. And so that's a really important skill. And like also being able to turn it around quickly. As you all know, in college, the deadlines are rapid, and you've got 5,000 other things going on. So like writing is just one portion of my job. I still have to do all of the day-to-day things. And so being able to kind of work through that process quickly is definitely helpful.
Also agree. Yeah, reports, proposals, it definitely helps with all of that. I also feel like I tell students, because I also teach a first year experience course, and a lot of like English, humanities classes also help with critical thinking and communication. And I think students don't realize how much of that is a part of working as an adult, interacting with coworkers, colleagues, your boss, the people you serve, if you have customers, patrons, whatever. There's a lack of it sometimes, that critical thinking and communication, and it makes work harder if that lack is there. So when people are hiring, they're looking for people who can demonstrate they have those skills. And while it's not like necessarily something you may think of when you think of your English degree, it is something you are learning in those classes. And as you graduate, being able to communicate those transferable skills to whatever field you end up in is very important. So you are learning critical skills that a lot of people are, in fact, lacking, and your degree is helping you
Mhm.
get those skills.
Okay. And both of you kind of gave us a snapshot of what you do on a daily basis. Um, so maybe the couple more questions for you. One, can you talk about your experiences at FAMU as you were getting your English degree? What did you love about it? What did you wish you had more of? Kind of as you got into trying to choose a career. Or maybe sort of like what direction to go, like anything about FAMU that you want to share with the current majors.
I'll go first. Um, I I loved my experience at FAMU. I forgot to mention, so when I started in the 5-year MBA program. Like I said, I know what I was doing. There was like a scholarship, so I applied for it. That went horribly. Immediately switched my major after that first semester. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be that. Um, and English was just like a breath of fresh air. All of my professors were great. They're all just so passionate about the topics they were talking about. I really enjoyed my college experience. It wasn't, I don't know, like those classes weren't work like some of my other classes were. Um, I think my professors, the amount of like care they showed, that they cared about me as an individual was also very important. I was a very shy person back then. So I communicated a lot in my writing. I didn't speak in class, but my professors were constantly encouraging me, like, you have so much to say, you have to use your voice. So I do think that helped. It took some time, but it helped shape me into the person I am now, that just constant care and support that I got from them. I forget what all the questions were.
Oh, that was it. Just
Okay.
talk about your experience. Yeah. Anybody else? And I know you didn't go for your English degree here, but if you wanted to share like your experiences at your university.
Well,
As
now I actually was going to share my experience at FAMU.
okay.
So my undergrad was at University of Michigan. So I'm from up north and moved down here for to do the master's program, and it was worlds of difference in terms of my experience at FAMU. So, and I'm far removed now from FAMU, but I definitely want to say or to encourage you, despite whatever challenges you have, definitely know that you're getting a very unique experience. Um, the love, the care, the desire to push you, to give you, the leg up, that's not something that you're going to see everywhere. So for example, in my master's program, I completed my master's thesis, and one of my professors, he enjoyed one of the chapters that I wrote, but that he assisted me into turn it into an article that was part of a collection a book collection that he published. Um, and yeah, that's something that I did not experience in my PhD program, in any way, shape, or form. So I definitely appreciate FAMU for the support and, the steps to this is how you do this. And if you want to do this, we're going to help you. So definitely take advantage of the benefits, the pluses of your experience. Take advantage of all that you can before you leave.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the other panelists. My experience at FAMU was unmatched. It's zero complaints. My only regret is of my own doing. Like I said, I was very sure I was going to be a teacher forever. I was going to retire as a teacher. That's what I wanted to do. And so I spent a lot of time with the English professors, and then I spent a lot of time at FAMU DRS because it used to be across the street, like on campus. And so I didn't really take advantage of any of the other opportunities that colleges were providing. Like I know business has a ton of internships and career exploration and things like that. And I just kind of ignored those things. I was like, that doesn't matter. I'm absolutely going to be a teacher forever. And so just kind of take advantage of all of the things that campus has to offer. Make sure you're talking to faculty outside of the English department. Everyone is so friendly. I minored in history. The history professors were incredible. Everybody is so nice. And so just make sure you're making those connections and connecting with those people while you can. Everybody says it, but once you like get out into the real world and you get a job, it's very, very hard to kind of change course, financially, emotionally, mentally, all of those things. So now is a really good time to kind of look around and make sure that you're getting whatever it is that you need.
Okay, thank you for sharing those wonderful feelings about your time at FAMU. So last question, if you could give our majors one piece of advice, what would it be, in terms of choosing a career, pivoting if you need to, and doing research as necessary? Like, what's one piece of advice you would leave them with?
Okay, I would like to start. Just so there is um, I like to be transparent in terms of my experience and my career. So I love my job, happy here. I made 5 years in March. But in terms of my industry, so in case anyone is thinking, okay, I would like to follow that path, it is not a growing field as, let's say, tech, or medicine. So if you want to pursue editing in whatever capacity, whether it's academic publishing or you want to work in book publishing, you definitely want to gain experience where you can. So even if it's unpaid, don't be afraid of that. You don't want to stay there too long, but you definitely want to have some experience on your resume. The other thing is I would also suggest to get some technical writing experience. I think that has hindered me not having that. My experience has been broad in terms of English, but even if there isn't a class, if there's some type of online thing you can do to get, whether it's medical editing certificate or IT, to have more specific technical experience, I think would be very helpful. So the way I think, just from what I've noticed so far, is that people basically die in my industry. Nobody's leaving. And now we have the influx of AI and people are trying to adjust to what does that mean. You just want to be very competitive. So just take advantage of whatever resources are available to you. And if there aren't, you just have to make a way. So.
And I didn't even think to ask about that, how AI is kind of changing the viability of your jobs and the way that it's changing the things that you do on a daily basis. Y'all can answer that later in the Q&A with the students. Anybody else wanted to give one last piece of advice?
I'm gonna say network. That was like a bad word to me. Like I said, I was very shy, very introverted. Even once I got in my career, I hated that word. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to talk to people. But it really can open up doors, even just with, we mentioned like pivoting and exploring different things, learning from different people about different opportunities. I talk to people all the time, and like librarianship is a career I feel like a lot of people don't think about. We do not have a lot of Black librarians, so I am always recruiting uh, Black people to librarianship. We need more of us. But even just talking to people, I like talking to other people in my field, asking them, what do you do? How did you get here? Because a lot of people have done different things before they landed on what their career path is. And that's also something that should encourage you if you're feeling unsure. Like, we don't have it all figured out just because we graduated. Like, you're still learning, you're still developing. But talking to people about their experiences could help as well. You might learn more about different careers you may not have thought of, different avenues you could take, and also, like I said, building that network. You never know who can put you in connection with a certain job or opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you said it or not, but what was your master's degree in? Is it
Oh,
called
library and information studies.
Library and Information Studies? And you also, Ms. Garner?
Yes, they call it I graduated recently, probably more recently than Serena. So now they call it information science just to make it more broad.
Okay. Any last piece of advice you want to give?
Well, since I said it, think broadly. I don't like I said, they changed the name of the degree. It used to have library in it. I graduated from Florida State, and so they've taken library out just to make it more marketable because librarians work everywhere. They work in tech, they work for corporations, they work for law firms. So just think broadly about what it is that you want to do, and you don't have to be limited in what it is that you decide to do.
And that program is online, right? Were you able to do it online?
Yes,
Okay.
I did it online.
Okay.
One last thing I did want to
Go ahead.
say, if you do have an idea of a career or an occupation, work your way backwards. So know what the end goal is and figure out the steps to get there. So you don't take unnecessary steps. So for example, me, I didn't have to have a PhD for my job. There was no need at all. So that was on me not realizing, okay, this is what I want to do and what do I need to get there. So just be very thoughtful in your process and be intentional.
Okay.
And save yourself a lot of heartache and money.
Thank y'all for answering my questions. I'm gonna open it up to our students who are in here or any other professors who have questions that I didn't think about. Y'all have any questions for our panelists?
I have one. Thank you guys so much for doing this panel for us. I'm Janice Hudson, and I'm a co-advisor for the Lit Guild. And I think I heard, I know from Esther, she said she wanted to go into medicine and then her hair fell out, so no. And I think I heard from at least one other person that they came into their undergrad program with a certain plan in mind and then it shifted. When you think back to maybe what you thought you were going to do when you went into undergrad and the moment where you sort of had your own like come to Jesus or whatever revelation, what advice would you give? Is there any advice you would give to students who maybe are hesitating to make that kind of pivot or to help them kind of have whatever kind of realization sooner of like what they really want to do, if that makes sense? I hope the question makes sense.
It does. It's a great question, and I'm gonna try to answer without blabbing. But yeah, so thinking about my particular experience, when I got to college, it was very much about I can't go back home. So whatever I have to do to make it, to be rich or wealthy, so I don't go back, have to relive my childhood, that's what I'm going to do. So I think it's a challenge for Black students, especially Black women. There's a lot of emotional baggage that we're coming in when we get to college, and we have a high expectation of what we want to do and what we can achieve. And not to say that you shouldn't have high expectations, but give yourself grace. I guess is the way I'm thinking about it. And just because you see, okay, it's the doctor, the lawyer, all of these jobs that you know of because that's what gets pushed in our community. There are millions of different fields. It's the industry that makes this world go around. The industries, they're very broad. There's so much that you can do. So I think the focus should just be on what is your skill set, what is your talent. And not to say if you're not talented in something, don't do it, but then you need to know, what do I have to do to gain those skills? So yeah, I'll say just, keep an open mind, talk to people again, like other panelists said, networking, and just know that you can be successful in a field that's not the typical, course of success. I hope that helps.
Any other questions for our panelists?
Oh yeah, thank you, Esther. Well, I wanted to check and see if Serena or Sharika had anything to add to what Esther said.
I would say maybe ask for help. I've kind of struggled and figured it out eventually, but I kind of did it on my own. And you don't have to do that. I would ask for help. You know, there was a career center on campus. I stepped foot in there probably once to get my planner, and that was it. I look back like, why didn't you go there? So use your resources. It Of course you could do research, but if you can talk to people, if you can use the resources on campus, do that as well. Don't feel like you have to figure it all out by yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I know that nowadays universities are pushing like the out and for method, but you're out and for and then life hits you. So if you have to take a little bit more time, not too much, but if you have to take a little bit more time to figure it out, like I'll keep emphasizing that like now is the time to figure it out, because when you're adulting and starting a family or working really hard in your career, whatever it is that you may be doing, it's just really, really hard to change course and do something different.
I'm going to add to that because I graduated a semester early. So I graduated fall of 2011. So I was working in the writing center, but I was not in classes for a whole semester. So I was just trying to figure it out that whole time. So I took a little break, but like she said, not too long, because I knew if I didn't hurry up and go to grad school, I was not going. I was like, once I do school, I am done. And now I'm thinking about going back, but um, not too long. That's important. But yeah, I needed that little break to try to, reset and figure out what I wanted to do.
All right, any other questions, especially from our students that are in the house? Y'all have a wealth of knowledge here. We'll wait to see if they have any. And I know our president is actually wanting to apply to the Florida State program in library information. That's what it's called now. No, information studies. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here, but I'm sure she's still going to gain something from this. I saw
And
somebody.
Anna is interested in publishing, but she might be indisposed or shy. For those of you students who are here and students who are not here, what we'll do is follow up with our speakers. Esther has already been so kind as to do like an alumni profile for us. And I would love to reach out to you, Serena and Sharika, and we just do like, we ask you like if you have a photo that you like, and then we just basically ask you the same questions Dr. Henry asked you tonight about like how you ended up in your, like, when did you come to English? Where were you before that time? The questions she asked you tonight, and we just sort of transcribe that. And then we have like a alumni bulletin board on the 4th floor. And whenever we have like career fairs or like when with homecoming season coming up and we like feature different alumni, we share it that way. So we try to keep the different alumni stories in circulation so the students can know like what's possible based on what's been done from graduates of our department.
Yeah, and hopefully we can find a home for them on the webpage.
Oh yeah.
All right, any other questions for our panelists? We don't want to hold y'all too long. No questions?
I had a quick question.
Okay.
I know you guys touched on it as far as like going out to like using your resources in regards to like finding internships and stuff like that, because I would say like a lot of like jobs want some type of experience and things of that nature, but like when you're trying to go about it and stuff like that and like it's not really happening and trying to do the networking, what would you say would be like the best way to build that experience in like other routes? That worded that correctly.
One thing I'll say is that every internship I got, I asked for, like either in person, and libraries are open. So sometimes that's the easiest way. And I was, like I said, I was working full time, so none of them were paid. So everybody loves a volunteer. So if you're in a position where you can volunteer, that's always great. If you tell people you want to help, they're super excited to have help. A lot of times people who are overwhelmed and need the help aren't going to be easily accessible through email or phone because they're so busy doing the job that it's just going to be really hard for them to get back to you. So if you can show up, I think that that's great. If there's networking events, like I know Serena was saying she hates them, but if there's an event, you can see somebody and you can put eyes on them. A lot of times that's a really easy way to make a connection. And even nowadays, the virtual events are good. Like turn on your camera. That not right now, you don't have to turn on your camera, but like when you're in these events, turn on your camera. That has helped me a lot. Literally, I've been at events where I'm the only person who turns on their camera, and then the moderator, somebody will reach out to me later and say, you know, it was nice to see your face. Like, how can we connect? So just kind of like putting yourself out there. Like, don't be afraid to do that.
And I think that was Stephanie that asked the question. We do have a Google Doc as well that lists a number of internships and summer programs. I need to send it out again for this semester, but we have a whole list that are local, regional, and national that you also can kind of take advantage of. I'll make a note to send that out.
I was just going to add on to what Sharika said. I also volunteered. I volunteered also to figure out a little bit more about what I wanted to do. She mentioned earlier about academic versus public libraries. They are very different. So I volunteered at a public one to try to, you know, figure out if that's what I wanted. I did not. So it helped with that as well. But also with as far as networking, you know, start with the rattlers. I'm gonna ride for a rattler all day, every day. So if you know, whether it's your local alumni chapter or you know people who know people, you know, we will make it happen for a rattler. So I see people all the time on Facebook groups and say, hey, we have a young alumni who's looking for experience in this. And yes, talk to people at homecoming. Listen, any rattler who I will find you something somewhere. So yeah, start with the rattlers. We'll find you something. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
We should have also asked, do y'all have any internship opportunities at y'all universities, or are they mostly for in-house or your school?
So mine doesn't have a formal internship process, but they've also made internships for people who requested it. Sometimes it was people who, you know, it came from, you know, they were related to somebody very important. But if I have to, I'll make one. You know, that's also something like Sharika said, like, you know, she just asked. Some people have the power to just make one. So you won't know that until you ask. So you gotta be bold and just go for it because closed mouths don't get fed.
What about you, Esther? Do you know of any in your particular program that you're in?
I do not, but that is something I can ask. So, but
Okay.
my life is crazy. My twins turned 4 last month, so send me an email and I will check.
Okay. All right, we want to thank y'all again for being on our panel. Again, like Dr. Hudson said, she will reach out to you about being featured on our Facebook and Instagram pages. And again, we just want to say thank you and clap.
Thank you all.
But thank y'all so much. And also thank you to all of the professors who showed up. Professor Lipinski, Professor Dr. Hudson. Who else is in here? Dr. Young had to leave. Who else is here? I think that's it.
Yeah, the rest are students.
Yeah, everybody else is student. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So
See you
y'all
at
can either
homecoming.
log off or stay. We're gonna talk to the students a little bit.
Okay.
Have
See
a
you all
good
later.
one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.